Number 10. Phantasy Star Online. So most gamers thought this was going to be a comeback for the series, but nope. It was a new franchise, action-oriented, acting as an MMORPG. The Dreamcast was its first and only home for a while, and everybody thought it was just an online game. However, it did have a campaign, an offline story mode, but it was kinda weak. Still, it represented a before and after in this iconic franchise. Number 9. Advance Wars. Developed by the same guys who did Fire Emblem, this was the start of a niche franchise that's nowadays dead. They were all grid-based, tactical RPGs with strong military micromanagement attached. You mostly control soldiers, tanks, and the like. One curious thing about this game is that it was only released in North America a day before the Towers incident. Japan and Europe wouldn't see the light of it until several years later in a collection with the second game. Number 8. Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud is an action RPG, the very first game developed by Level 5. It's a very unique adventure, mixing 6 main playable characters and world building. In fact, the whole point of the game is to rebuild the towns and villages by recovering lost parts in several different dungeons. A lovely game, quite technical and a favorite of some in 2001. Number 7. Paper Mario. Paper Mario was, in a way, a continuation of the success of Super Mario RPG. Still, it was a turn-based RPG but completely played with 2D characters in 3D environments. So Mario and several different partners embark on a classic quest of rescuing Princess Peach. All this in a highly unique RPG, definitely a great successor to the masterpiece on the Super Nintendo. Number 6. Golden Sun. The start of a love letter franchise that died off after its third entry. I said a love letter because it was indeed meant to be felt and played like all those great JRPGs on the 16-bit era. There's no reason to explain one of the most popular titles on the Game Boy Advance, an endearing adventure that brought many fans into the genre. Number 5. Dragon Warrior 7. The last game in the series to be released with the name Warrior instead of Quest. Also an extremely long game with high focus on exploring the many islands out there, each having several story-related quests involved, mysteriously connected to some ancient ruins. This game just spams nostalgia for some reason, with its beautifully and eerie soundtrack as well as its delightful cast of characters. Number 4. Tales of Eternia. Stupidly released as Tales of Destiny 2, even though the original was published several years later on the PS2 only in Japan, its real name, now we all know, is Tales of Eternia, completely unrelated to its PS1 predecessor. Story was full of interesting characters and this unique charisma I didn't find in Destiny 1. I also felt the fighting in 2D had improved as both your playable character and party members were more responsive. Overall a great adventure that surpassed Destiny in my opinion, and obviously one of the best of 2001. Number 3. Final Fantasy Chronicles. So I'm cheating again, including 2 games in one spot. This release was an exclusive to North America, which had Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. Both had been ported before to the PlayStation, so those were the ones we got. The former wasn't exactly rebalanced and it felt harder than the original release. Everything else felt just as great, with its deep story and iconic cast of characters. Trigger was also well received, except for its tedious loading times during battle. What stood out the most were the CGI cutscenes in Final Fantasy IV and of course the animated ones in Chrono Trigger. Definitely a great release for the year 2001. Number 2. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was a sensation of this year, when all types of fans of the series embraced the PlayStation 2 era. However, it was also the first game in the mainline that started to feel different from its predecessors. Nevertheless, it remained a true classic and a JRPG beloved by millions of people out there. Number 1. Shadow Hearts. No way I was gonna hand the throne to Final X, not when one of the most criminally underrated RPGs of all time was also released in 2001. Shadow Hearts was the spiritual successor of Kudelka on the PS1. It had a dark story with a very cynical protagonist involving demons, psychological twists, and the First World War. All this packed with an amazing battle system legendary for its judgment ring, deciding the amount of damage. This game just had to be number 1, as it is definitely the best of 2001. Another interesting list with some really solid RPGs here. Now that we've entered the PlayStation 2 era, I can only promise things will keep getting even more interesting. I'll see you then in 2002.